Okay, but who is Bryan Cantrell? I am Bryan Cantrell. I'm a miracle of God twice over. And we'll say 3 times if being born counts. Does that count? Yeah, you're born. I'm a loving husband of 27 years to my beautiful wife, Michelle. I say that even if she's not here. Hey, baby. I'm an adjunct professor of computer science at a community college in California. I graduated there at one point, and I've been teaching there for 8 years, so when I moved here, it just sort of, here, keep going online. I'm an author, and guess what? I'm a speaker, sort of. I'm just starting this journey in life, but we'll go from there. But who I am is nothing. Who God is everything, correct? 4 years old was a critical age for me. At 4, I knew without a shadow of a doubt I was going to follow in my father's footsteps and become a pilot. Now, Dad would eat with us every morning or every evening. We'd have dinner. Then he would grab his helmet, and head to the airport and spray all night. He was a crop duster. And in Idaho, 90% of the flying is done at night because the bees are out pollinating, and at nighttime they go to sleep. So you can spray, and they're really expensive. You don't want to kill them with insecticide. I know that. Okay. Also, when I was 4 years old, I was playing airplanes in my bedroom. You know how little kids do. And my dad came in and he said, "Hey, Wes." My middle name's Wesley. So my dad's called me Wes for the past 53 years. And he only used Bryan if he was, spare the rod type. No. Bryan Wesley? Oh, no. He said, "Hey, Wes, let's go flying." Wait a second. I totally forgot that. There is a way that seems right to a man, but in its end is the way of death. And then, of course, followed by, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." Those are the 2 verses that really pump me up and keep me going. I'm standing here because of that second one. Yeah? Okay. Can we go to the next slide, please? Now, that's a little Aronka Champ. That's what we owned when I was 4 years old. And you can check out my dad's cool 1975 hair right there. So that's 1975 on the left, and that's just an airplane on the right. He said, "Hey, Wes, let's go flying." So we drove out to the Nampa Municipal Airport in Nampa, Idaho, and we jumped in our little Champ, pilot in the front, passenger in the back, and we took off. I used to love watching the ground disappear. Oh, there it goes. So about a couple minutes into it, about 10 minutes into the flight, my dad said, "Hey, Wes, put both hands on that stick in front of you. It's called the yoke." And at that moment, instantly, I thought, why is it named after an egg? I'm 4 years old, it doesn't really matter. So I put both hands on that stick, and he said, "Now, Wes, pull back a little bit." And when I pulled back, the airplane started to climb. He said, "Now, Wes, push forward." When I pushed forward, the airplane started to dive. He said, "Now go side to side very slowly." And we had to yell because we didn't have cool headsets back in 1975. So I moved it to the right, and the airplane turned right. I moved it to the left, and the airplane turned right. And he said, "Now, Wes, look up here at me." And when I looked up at my dad, he was like this. He said, "You are flying this airplane." Now, not knowing that he was all the important controls at the time, I know what Superman feels like, because I was him right then and there. I was like, "Oh my goodness, I am Superman. I got this going on. Just take me home, and I'm going to take off and fly away, and you just do your thing." But anyway, also at the age of 4, after that glorious flight in that beautiful airplane, now I look at it and think that airplane's a little ugly. But anyway, my parents decided, that's it. We're done with each other. So at 4 years old, my mom moved my sister and I to Colorado, and where she found a job as a critical care nurse, and she found safety in the Assembly of God religion. Now, my dad stayed in Idaho, and where his flying was, where he was a Nazarene. So confusion set in my life right then, because in the winter, I was an Assembly of God parishioner, and in the summer, I was a Nazarene parishioner. Now, we are talking 180 degrees from each other right there. My grandfather was district superintendent for the Nazarene religion on the west coast of the United States. So it was in me, but my mom really found this So at one service I'm getting yelled at, and at the other service I'm fighting to stay awake. It's just, there was confusion there. And I love my grandpa, and he's not here anymore, but he put me to sleep a little bit. I'm just going to say that. Okay. So although there was all this turmoil, ups and downs in my life, I stayed focused to my dream and my goal. And at 17, while still in high school, I obtained my private fixed wing license, which is airplanes only. At 21, I obtained my commercially rated fixed wing license and started spraying for the family company in Hollister, California, crop dusting company. And at 22, I lay dying in a yellow piece of bent metal next to a wheat field in Morgan Hill, California. But how did I get there? Stay tuned. Okay, bye. Let's go, babe. I'm just kidding. Okay, totally. 1993, April 7th of 1993 was a beautiful day in California. Don't hate because I was in California. I was called out to spray a wheat field with 2,4-D, which is a weed killer. And so I jumped in my yellow bird. And can we, one more slide, please? There we go. That's my yellow bird. So I jumped in the yellow bird and I headed up to Morgan Hill, which is about a 20-minute flight. And about halfway there, I see the largest hot air balloon I'd ever seen, ever. Giant purple and black hot air balloon. And so I did what I normally do when I saw the balloons, and I flew as close as I could to it. And I turned up on my side and threw a wave, and these people threw a wave. They were all happy. I'm like, all right, it's going to be a good day. I get to the field, and I realize that the farmer is on the field in his white Z71 truck. That's how I remember Kip Brundage. And I noticed that I'm going to have to fly the field in what they call a round robin manner, meaning I'm going to dive in, spray one pass, and go all the way around the field and come in on the next pass over. It's called round robin. And you have to do that for certain reasons. Like this field was right next to IBM in California, so I didn't want to get too close, turning around the other direction. And that's how it was going to get done cleanly. So I dove in on the first pass. Now I'm 18 inches above the crop at 115 miles an hour. And I come back around for pass number 2. Everything's looking good. 18 inches and 115. I get around to pass 3 and I realize I'm gonna miss my turn. So I'm in the cockpit like this and I'm looking to my right because I need to get on my line. So I turn a little bit tighter and I pull a little bit tighter on that yoke, and she didn't like it. She snaps hard left. She does a 720 straight into the ground from 90 feet at 115 miles an hour, putting that big fat World War II engine 4.5 feet to a packed dirt road. It de-riveted the wings 6 feet out. So how am I still standing here? All right, we know there's one reason why I'm here. Who is it? Yeah, amen. It's God, 100%. But on that day, there was a firefighter re-roofing his shed in his backyard. When he saw me go in, he instantly went into life-saving mode. He didn't care what was going on. He was going to save my life. He jumped off his shed, broke his ankle, still managed to get to the back door to scream his badge number to his wife and say, "Send a helicopter, do not send an ambulance." And then somehow hobbled back to his truck and drove to the crash site. Meanwhile, the farmer was on the field knowing that if he didn't get me out, sometimes paramedics won't touch crop dusters because they don't know what poisons they're flying. So he knew he needed to get me out. So when the firemen got there, him and Kit pulled me out of that that airplane, which was a crumpled pile of metal. Can you go to the next slide, please? Now that's just the newspaper clipping, and it's hard to tell because there's a piece of bent metal, but from the tip of the propeller to the windscreen, the cockpit window is gone. It's completely gone. So it was an 8-minute, the helicopter came to get me, and it was an 8-minute flight from where I crashed to the closest level 1 trauma unit. And on that 8-minute flight, my heart stopped 8 times. When it stopped the 8th time, the flight nurse looked at her watch and said, "Okay, it's got to last 1 minute and 28 seconds until we're skids on the roof of that hospital." So she reached over and turned the jewels all the way up on the defibrillator, and pounded me one more time. And my heart stayed. It lasted until we landed there. Pretty amazing that she knew to do that. Now I've met her and I've talked to her, and she said, although your body was strapped down in 3 different spots, everywhere it wasn't strapped down, your body lifted off that gurney at least 1.5 inches. I've never used so many joules on somebody where it stayed. Well, I think God was talking to her ear, turn it up. This guy's pretty cool, we gotta save him. Okay. So I woke up after a 32-day coma. Of 28 days of that 32-day coma, they were telling my parents, my family, tonight's the night. Tonight he's not going to make it. He's not going to wake up. They already had my funeral set up, the plot picked out, the food that they were going to serve. That was it. I was dead. But on day 33, hey guys, I'm out. I didn't say that because I couldn't talk. On day 33, my eyes opened up. The ICU that I woke up in was so bright. You know how they keep them really sterile? So it was bright white. I didn't have my glasses on. Where'd you guys go? That's how I see. I knew that I was in heaven. I knew, okay, then it clicked in my head. I remembered that I was shot in a dirty laundromat in San Francisco, and I'm in the hospital because I must have lived, or I'm in heaven because I must have died. Now I'm really focusing around, and I can't really, all of a sudden I start making somebody else out. It's my older brother, and that's when it really hits, oh, I'm not in heaven. That dude ain't gonna be here. But I really thought I was in heaven because those dreams that I had in that coma were my reality. It's what I was living. They were so, even to this day, crystal clear, in color, everything that happened. I had 3 major dreams. One, that I was shot in a dirty laundromat. And then I had a yellow 750 black and yellow Ducati Super Sport. Like, no, I had a horrible motorcycle in high school, but not a Ducati. They're too fancy. Anyway, shortly after that, my doctor came in. And he said, Bryan, we're going to talk about what happened to you. He said, can you hear me? And I tried to speak and I couldn't speak. And he said, all right, blink your eyes twice if you can hear me. So I blinked my eyes twice. And he said, Bryan, look over to the right. That black brownish machine right there is breathing for you through that tube in your neck. So I was trached. I could not talk, which, okay, if you can't talk, you can't ask questions. So that brings up a whole new, he said, okay, Bryan, this is what happened. You shattered your left ankle, you shattered your right knee, your pelvis was blown so open that I've been a doctor, orthopedic surgeon for 25 years, and I've never seen it open so much where I can still talk to somebody, talk to the patient. He said all but one rib pierced both sides of your lungs, causing a flailed chest and ARDS, adult respiratory distress disorder. That explains the bloody tubes coming out of your armpits right now. I had tubes everywhere. It was crazy. And then he said, but the most, well, clavicle and nose, I know it's hard to tell. Nose is pretty perfect. He said, the worst injury is you compressed L1 through L4 so bad they're oval shaped, not square. He said, we don't know if you're ever going to walk, and we don't know if you're ever going to be able to have children again. Again, I never had children, or be able to have children. Okay, not being able to speak, not being able to ask questions, fear consumed my body. Now I knew I was only alive in that hospital bed for one reason, because there's a loving Father above. But at that point in my life, I wasn't living a life that God would ever have been proud of, at all. But I knew because my grandfather and my mom, and because of all the church, and I went to all the camps. Yeah, that's a lot of camps. Assembly of God and Nazarene camps. Anyway, but I just was not living where I should have been living. But I was alive. And for me to know that I was alive because of God, I definitely was dropping the ball somewhere. So what now? That's what I was faced with. I was consumed with fear, in a hospital bed, all alone with a stupid machine breathing for me. What am I going to do? Where am I going to go now? Now, if I would have put all my faith in the Lord at that time, I could have given him that fear. But I didn't give it to him. I held on to it. So I spun down into a little dark hole, wondering what's going to happen. Where am I going to go? But I had 9 more weeks in the hospital to ponder my direction. I had 9 more weeks of massive physical and occupational therapy. Then I was released, wheelchair bound, to my parents' house. I understand what living in a wheelchair is like. This world is not really geared up for people in wheelchairs. So that was hard. And I don't want to say I loved being alive, but sorry, there's something on me. I hated that wheelchair. I had great younger brother and sister, and she would say, "Hey Bryan, you want to go out by the pool?" My younger sister, and I'd say, "Yeah, I'm in my wheelchair," and then she would roll me into the pool. But that's sisters, right? 2 years after that crash, so 1995, I took my first steps on parallel bars. I tell you what, I know exactly what a baby feels like. I'm like, ooh, I got this going. I'm out of here, peace. That's what I was thinking. But that was only the beginning. But 2 years later, I walked. So that answered that question about being able to walk. And the happiest day of my life was walking. Okay, second happiest day. We know what the first happiest day was. She's sitting in the second row.
Yeah, you have to say that.
Due to God's sovereign love for me, I was slowly becoming Bryan Cantrell again. From that shattered rubble of a man caused by that crash. I met Michelle, her right there, married her in 1998, but we still needed to figure out, where are we going? I had spent so much time in rehab, occupational and physical, that I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew that I loved aviation. I loved it. I still do. And I would try it again maybe if I had another chance. But I knew that the FAA was going to take my medical away forever and it wouldn't happen. But did they? We don't know. Okay. So after I married Michelle in 1998, 2 children followed shortly thereafter. So that answers that question too. Would he walk? We don't know if you're ever going to walk. We don't know if you're ever going to have kids. Well, God knew. He knew the answer. So I have 2 great kids. Let me tell you, my daughter is an occupational therapist in San Diego, California. I said, "What made you choose that, honey?" She said, "Dad, I watched them work with you when you were in," oh yeah, oops, I'm jumping ahead. Wrong story. Gotta go. Anyway, I still loved aviation, thought I would try it again. So Michelle and I decided we're going to go on an education journey. And we have 2 kids. We found a school that I teach at now that had a huge daycare, child development center, and they would watch our kids as we went to school. So I went there for instrumentation and process control, and then I jumped to University of the Pacific for business administration with a emphasis in economics and a minor in engineering technologies. And then I went on to California State University for my master's in business with supply chain. And then I started a doctorate. I don't know, well, my sister had 2, and I thought, she can't one-up me like that. Anyway, Michelle went for early childhood development, and then she switched into psychology at UC Merced. She was the first graduating class of UC Merced. It was pretty cool because although we were not Obama fans, Michelle Obama spoke at her graduation. And it was amazing. It was 104 degrees. Sweat was pouring off of us. But as soon as Michelle Obama started talking, we listened because she wasn't talking about politics. She was talking about education. It was really great. That's a side note. I just shouldn't have gone off on that side note. Sorry. So I was hired to build and teach at a charter school based on aviation. It's pretty amazing. So perfect for me. I taught math, English, science, history, art through aviation. You can't beat it. So one day, I did that for almost 8 years. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
That's all right. I'll just keep. So, for almost 8 years, I made an hour commute to and from that school because I built it. And I was proud of it, and the kids really enjoyed me, and they enjoyed learning about aviation. On the way home one day, I see this beautiful crop dusting helicopter. You know, you're probably thinking, how can a crop dusting helicopter be beautiful? But it was to me. And the ag world is huge, yet it's small. All of us crop dusters know each other, and oh, so-and-so got a new helicopter, let's go for a ride. So I had to know who owned that helicopter. So I took the next exit and drove directly to it. So I'm pulling up to the helicopter, which was an OH-58, a military version of a Bell Jet Ranger. I know, my wife always says, who cares? No one needs to know that. That's not important, Brian, but it is to me. So I pull up to it, and there's a guy wiping down the blades, and I'm like, that guy looks really familiar. And he turns around and he looks at me. It's my little brother. I knew that he had started working on his private pilot's license, but I didn't know he was commercially rated helicopter pilot crop dusting now. So, shortly after that, I was a commercially rated helicopter pilot after a flight with him. Shortly after that, I was a full-time teacher and a part-time crop duster in helicopters. And shortly after that, I lay dying in a burnt clump of twisted metal in a watermelon field in Merced, California. Which the really ironic thing about that is, I love watermelon. Yeah, I love it. And I was dying in that watermelon field. Check. Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. This guy's awesome. So anyway, there I was. Here we go again. What happened? So, I wake up. Actually, let's get to the story. July 18th, 2014. I was sent to spray insecticide on a cornfield that the worms were. That's my worm chomping on corn noise. I'm working on my sound effects. I hope that works for you guys. The field was really close to the Merced County Airport in Merced, California, and it was right across the street from the County Agricultural Commissioner's office. And that being, they are the field police. They are the crop duster police. So you don't want to speed, everything needs to be perfect. So I did a circle around the field. My door was never on. Let's go to the next slide, please. There we are. I'm in a Bell G2A1. You guys have all seen MASH. So it's like a MASH bubble helicopter. A lot of them are used for ag now. So I did a circle around the field looking for anything that could be dangerous for me, because I was a little OCD about hurting myself again. It makes sense, right? I spent a couple days in a coma, all good. So first load was perfect, 18 inches off the corn. I was out to spray corn. It was 7.5 feet tall, and that helicopter only did 55, so 18 inches and 55. I went back, and I was turning under the wire, so it would be perfect for the County Agricultural Commissioner. If he came out, he could say, that dude's really doing a good job. Second load, perfect, 18 inches above the corn, 55 miles an hour. Third load, I told my loader, all right, I'll see you at the next field, because it was only 3-load field, and take off. I took off, and I hit what they call a 1/2-inch braided tension cable at 7.5 feet, center point of the helicopter bubble at 55 miles an hour. Now, I had inspected that field. I had inspected the whole side, but I never saw this tension cable. And it was between poles 3 and 4, and it holds the tension this direction. Now, most of us have seen the tension cables at the end that are guide wires. They go down angled. This one was just in the middle of 2 random poles. Yeah. So I ended up on fire in a burning hulk of this helicopter in my, watermelon field. I love watermelon. So there's this gentleman. He's watching cartoons with his daughter. And he says, whoa, what was that? What was that? So he grabs his phone, as a lot of people do now, and they go up to film things, and he's like, whoa, this huge fiery helicopter. He gets around to the corner, or he gets around to the open area. The whole thing was open. Next slide, please. Anyway, he looks at me and I go, so he says, this guy's still alive. I got to get him out. Now this thing's on fire bad. Meanwhile, the guy's driving in his white F-150. I don't know why that sticks in my head. And he says, there's a helicopter right there. This guy's on fire. Let's get him out of there. He pulls in too. Now, people came to the scene instantly, and it was right across the street, almost right across the street from the Merced Airport, which is where Air Methods was located. Air Methods is the rescue helicopter. So they came and picked me up pretty rapidly after that. Now I spoke to that guy too, because I think these people that saved my bacon, I thank God a lot. And I told this guy, I called him up one day and I said, ring, 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 hello? Hi, is this John? He said, yeah. I said, hi, I'm Bryan Cantrell. And he said, Bryan Cantrell from the helicopter crash? And I said, yeah, from the helicopter crash. You're a jerk. I'm like, whoa, what? He said, that was my first rescue helicopter flight, and I had to pick up a crashed helicopter pilot. And then we both started laughing. But at first I was like, why is this guy calling me a jerk? So anyway, I wake up from a 45-day coma. When my eyes open, I instantly know where I'm at. I'm in the same hospital. I'm still in this hospital after crashing an airplane. How long ago? I just dreamt 20 years of my life. I recognized the lady at the end of my bed, but I didn't know how. I met her. You ever guys see somebody like that and you're like, I've met that guy somewhere, but I just don't know where from. Well, this person walks over to me and I see a tear streaming down her cheek. And when she puts her cheek against my cheek, I know instantly, this is my wife. Those are my kids. I'm a horrible helicopter pilot. You know, I just could not believe that that was my reality again. So unlike the first crash, those coma dreams took forever to get out. I mean, months before they left completely. But as soon as Michelle touched my cheek, I instantly knew my reality and that I had crashed a helicopter. Soon after, a doctor comes in and she tells me, this is what's up. She said that my left humerus tried to leave it did leave my arm, but they got it back in. It's a little, probably hurt pretty bad. Nose again and cheeks. But we pinned them all back together. You got a lot of metal in your face. I'm like, all right. She said, but the worst injury was you suffered a traumatic brain injury with multiple bleeds. Now, my mom was a critical care nurse, and I had heard stories about traumatic brain injuries. I knew that for the rest of my life, I was going to be the guy in the corner trying to figure out life for the rest of it. And I just could not believe. Now, I could talk a little bit, but I had had a tube shoved up in here, so things weren't really that clear. But I knew that something had to happen right then and there. When, let's go here. That night, after my hospital room cleared, Michelle went home, kids were gone, if they were even there. And I had a Christ-like moment, like I'd never had before. I knew that I couldn't go through another 2 years of rehabilitation. And I knew that I had a head injury and I didn't know what I was going to be like. So when my room cleared, I begged God. I've never prayed like this before. I begged God to take me. Michelle will be fine. Please just forgive my sins and just take me home. And clear as day, as if you came up here and slapped me right now, that's how clear it was. He said, you're not ready to be with me. And I'm not finished with you there yet. I mean, that was hard to take because please take me. A traumatic brain injury, I'm going to be horrible for the rest of my life. Just please take me. No, we got things to do, Bryan. Now, being a humanistic, weak Christian, as I lay in that hospital wondering how and why, I started questioning God. As we do sometimes, but who are we to ever question God? We're nobody. So I started asking him, why did I crash the first time? Why did you let me crash the second time? What can I possibly do to make a difference? And he told me, I didn't let you crash, but I gave you the free will to become a pilot. All right, things to think about. And then, as if questioning God wasn't, as I did that, he started answering me. The day before I crashed that airplane, a good mechanic buddy of mine jumped up on the wing of my airplane when I was taxiing by, and he said, Bryan, your shoulder harnesses look horrible. Taxi over to my hangar right now and let's put brand new shoulder harnesses in. And if Charlie Hall hadn't done that day, I would have been with that engine 4.5 feet into that packed dirt road. So after I questioned God, he answered me. He said, Bryan, the day before you crashed, I was Charlie Hall, a mechanic. The day you crashed, I was an off-duty firefighter, willing to risk my life to save yours. On that day, I was a farmer that knew I had to get you out. On that day, Bryan, of the airplane crash, I was a helicopter nurse, flight nurse, that knew if I cranked the joules up, your heart would last 1 minute and 28 seconds. On that day of the helicopter crash, Bryan, I was a random guy watching cartoons with my daughter. All right. I was some random guy driving by in my white F-150. I don't know why that sticks in my head. Bryan, I was a first-time helicopter pilot. I was with you the whole way because I gave you the free will to become a pilot. All right, and that took time. And it was at that point in my life, at our life, that the focus of God went from this much in my life to all of it. Because it had to be. Otherwise, I'd be the guy in the corner trying to figure out life for the rest of life. But it was a long recovery. The helicopter crash was 80% mental, 20% physical. Yeah. Anyway, I wanted to know, will I ever fly again? Now, she was praying really hard, don't ever let him get his medical back. He's horrible. But I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, I'll give you free cheap lessons if you need to go flying. Okay, that's not going to happen. But crash. All right, definitely. The healing process was, I said, but seriously, this crash, this helicopter crash, this head injury, scar right there, it almost ruined my marriage. Because Michelle was now married to a complete stranger. And I was different. My fuse was like that. My filter, which my filter on my mouth didn't really work good anyway beforehand, was not even there anymore. It was horrible. My kids would be the point, say, hey Dad, whoa. Yeah, let's don't go there. All right. But remember when I talked about Michelle's education? God knew back then that she would use her education that she got back then for something else in her life. With her degrees in early childhood development and psychology, we were able to work together from the things she learned in her education and the things that I was doing, and able to come together to create Bryan Wesley Cantrell again, to create somebody that God could be proud of, to create love, just to create a lot of different things. We are tighter now than ever. Our relationship with God and our faith in God is stronger than it's ever been because we had to hit rock bottom. And I got to tell you, I know that there's rocks down there below rock bottom. Yeah, and they're heavy. I've been there. If you can picture me lifting a rock. So things like that really started coming together. Now, like I said, I've known God my whole life. But I wasn't walking that path. I wasn't walking anything he could be proud of. But what I needed to do was keep putting one foot in front of the other and walking towards him because I want to be like him. I want him to love me like he does. He saves us. We have a God above us that looks down upon us and saves us, loves us. It's just amazing. I'm sorry, but that's all I can say about it. God is amazing. There's that song, Awesome God. It's because he is. 100%. Sovereign love for us sinners. And that's what he is, and that's why I'm here. My little brother came to visit me after that helicopter crash. Now, he was crop dusting in Iowa at the time. He was spraying corn. It's a huge corn run in Iowa. Now he flies Air Medical. But at the time I crashed, he was spraying corn, and he flew back to the airport, and he jumped on the jet, the smoker, the commercial jet, to fly home to be at the family because his brother had just crashed. The guy that took over for him that night crashed and died. In my brother's helicopter that he was spraying with, this guy flew through a set of power lines, high voltage power lines, and died. But when my little brother got to me, as little brothers do, he's like, hey, just think, if you hadn't crashed, Billy Bob would still be alive. You jerk. But that's little brothers. Anyway, he brought the pictures to me. That one of those pictures. You can go to the next one, please. Yeah, isn't it beautiful? I think it'll buff out. What do you guys think? He brings me that picture, and I said, there's no way that's my helicopter. Because I had been in ag my whole life, and I had seen crash after crash after crash, and never seen one so bad where the pilot's alive. So I didn't believe him. And he said, Bryan, look, maybe it was a different picture. He said the N number is 47 Delta Tango. That's your helicopter. And right there, I was like, somebody hit me in the head with a hammer. Yeah, that's my helicopter. Thank you, Lord. Because that's the only reason I'm standing here. That's the only reason I have 2 kids in California. And I have a beautiful wife. And that I walked in here. That's craziness. This is a French Gallet helmet. It's it's $1,800. It was all Bose surround sound proofed. I would start up my helicopter and push a button and it would go, whoo. Okay, this was its second flight. That was its second flight. So after I got out of the hospital and I really started figuring life out, what was going on, I decided I'm going to send this helicopter or this helmet in and get it fixed because it's too pretty not. I didn't know if I was ever going to fly again, but I wanted the helmet to be beautiful because that's what it was. It still is. Yeah. Anyway, so about 2 weeks after I mailed it off, the guy calls me up and he says, Bryan? And I said, yeah. Bryan Cantrell? Yes, Bob. I know who you are. You're my helmet guy. He said, okay, Bryan, I've been doing military helmets for 35 years and I've never seen one so destroyed that I can talk to the pilot. So I'm sending it back to you exactly how it is. You put it up on your mantle, you put it on your refrigerator, and you thank God every day that he allowed you to buy that helmet. So that's what I do. And I have it always with us in the house. Still pretty. Sorry, buddy. I destroyed it. Thinking back when I started speaking today, I asked that question. I realized that I was 100% self on all the decisions I had made because God gave me the free will to choose those decisions. Okay, could I have done things differently? Yes, I could have. I could have focused it all towards maybe being an aviation missionary person versus a crop duster. So I asked the question, what defines us? I knew that being a pilot defined me. I knew that wholeheartedly. It made me pretty cool. Yeah. Until I crashed, and then you're not cool anymore. You're just that crasher guy. She never thought I was cool because I was a pilot. She just thought I was super handsome. Right? No? Okay, she's shaking her head. Yeah. We know how that goes with wives. But I knew completely after seeing that picture that there's a God that loves us, that cares for us, that saves us. So I stand here now in front of you with no smell, no taste, no left peripheral vision. So I have to turn a lot. I don't see Pastor Eric when I'm just looking out this way. Looking at you, I don't see him. But looking, whoa, Mr. Handsome, what's up? How's it going? I see him when I turn my head. So my Siri in my car is my wife. When we're getting on the freeway, she's all bent around. Yeah, you can get over. Because if I just look in my mirror, if there's a car way over here on the left, I'm not going to see it. So I actually have to turn my head too. Anyway.
Some people without that kind of injury have to be there too. You know?
Yeah, wow. See? Let's start a gang. I have no feeling in the left half of my right leg. and I have no feeling in my right rear end. But I also don't have a right calf or a right rear end. So the more weight I put on, the more napkins I have to put in my wallet for balance, because I'm a right pocket wallet wearer. Okay. And I don't have enough money to put in there to make it balance, so I just go with napkins. I walk with a limp, but that's my gait, that's my strut. I don't care. I don't care that I walk with a limp. And although I can't feel my right foot at all, I could step on a nail right now and it could go through both sides of my foot and I would say, oh, that stinks, because I can't feel it. But at least 150 to 200 times a day, I feel like a bolt of lightning is shooting out of the bottom of that foot that I can't feel. That's because I compressed L1 through L4, and it says, hey, I'm going to send some electrocution out the bottom of your foot, which is great. No, it's not at all. It's not very great. But all of these conditions that I still have after so many years are just a reminder that I'm alive, that there's something great for me to do, that this has been on my heart and mind for a long time. And somebody told me once, if your story can help one person, it needs to be told. It needs to happen because it is a great God story. Because you saw that. There is no way I should be standing here. Next slide, please. Oh, look at that hot lady right there. Anyway, Michelle, she didn't leave. She was with me. That was a horrible picture. Next slide, please. But right there, fruit of my labor. That is our son in the middle, him and his wife, London. They live in Central Valley, California. That's Michelle and our daughter, Alyssa, occupational therapist. The kid holding the blue ball, that's Bjorn. He's a Viking French bulldog. That's her baby. And there's Michelle and some handsome guy next to her up there in his Texas shirt. Woo-woo! Anyway, so I know that I have a mission to complete now. I know that nothing can stop me. And I know, like I said, you put one foot in front of the other and you keep going. So many people with head injuries give up because they don't have the faith that God is here for them, to take care of them, to love them, and to keep pushing forward. Thank you.
Amen.
You want me to put it up? You got it?
Thanks, brother.
Do that? Thank you.
All right, Debbie, you want to come play for us a little bit? There was one more slide. She
Oh,
said. Did you forget
yeah!
that? By His grace. That's
By
a good
His-
one to leave up right now.
And you look in the background, it's a beautiful helicopter.
Yeah, I see it.
Well, Bryan, thank you for that, brother.
Thank you.
So much. Could y'all just bow your heads and close your eyes for a minute? I think, after hearing a testimony like that, I think some of us who've been overcome with worry, some of us have been overcome with grief, some of us have been overcome with so many thoughts that are not from God. I think it's time for some of us to let go of those things. And just like Bryan said, through the grace of God, just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Let's move on in Him. Because as you could hear from his story, God already had everything taken care of and lined up in each situation. God had the right people, right time. And God does the same for each and every one of us. God knows who you are. God knows what you have need of before we ask. God is always in control. And I think it's time for some of us, because I know what it's like to live with anxiety and worry and fear and the what if type of thinking. I think it's time for us to let go of that stuff and start putting our faith. See, our faith is being tested in those moments. And that's what God's saying. No matter how you feel, no matter the circumstance, no matter what's going on, are you going to trust me? And my prayer for this service today was, God, just please encourage us. Help us, Lord, just to commit to one foot in front of the other. And just let's let's walk forward with Christ. Amen.